My dear RTS fans, remember when everyone was playing Dia Billions? Well, I found a much smaller game that somehow captures a lot of what made it special. It's not a clone, it's not as polished, but after spending a few hours with it, I was surprised how close it gets. If you miss Dia Billions, try Here Comes the Swarm. So if you have been looking for something to fill that RTS-shaped gap in your hearts, let's take a look. This game is called Here Comes the Swarm, developed by Cablehook Games and currently in early access. It's a survival RTS game where you build your base, gather resources, and fight off huge swarms of enemies. It's priced at only $20 in the Steam store. And don't be scared by the early access. It's already a gem of a game that is very well made. Within the first minutes, I started noticing similarities to Dia Billions, not because it copies it directly, but because the core gameplay loop is the same. Build structures, gather materials, increase your population, recruit soldiers, invest into upgrades, and fight off hordes of enemies. But Here Comes the Swarm has its own take on progression and brings a fun twist into gameplay, with deities and skill trees. But let's take a closer look. You are left in charge of building a survivor settlement in a world where alien-like monsters have swarmed the world, and your job is to secure the settlement and repel the enemy. In this dystopian, dark world, you rely on limited resources and resource management, while also clearing the map with your combat units to find unlocks and items. The core gameplay will feel similar to Dia Billions. You build dwellings to increase your population, gather wood near forests, gas from geysers which serves as electricity, and you produce food. Meanwhile, you have to balance all your resources, which are always limited and which you have to carefully manage at all times. Over time, you gather more and more new resources, get upgrades, new buildings, or combat units. But don't forget to set up a strong defense, because all over the map there are alien-like creatures, and over time there will be several huge swarms of enemies storming your base, and depending on game mode, even boss monsters. The combat focuses around defense buildings such as towers, walls, and ballistas, in your typical RTS defense manner. Set up a safe perimeter around your base, somewhat similar to building a castle in your favorite medieval game. But then there is also combat units, knights with sword and shield, crossbow-wielding ranged troops, or mages such as the Arcanist. The buildings and troops follow a rock-paper-scissors system, where they are strong against certain enemies or situations and weak in other situations. But the gimmick that makes it unique is the large skill tree and deity system. The deity system is your meta progression system. Depending on which deity you choose, you get unique upgrades and buffs in defense, combat, or economy aspects. It makes your progression and battle against a multitude of enemies a worthwhile experience. Similar to Dia Billions, there are several game modes already included in the early access, such as Skirmish and Expedition, where you can set up certain winning parameters to your gameplay. But its strongest gameplay mode is the Endless mode. Set up a difficulty or other gameplay parameters and hop into an endless fight against the swarm. One of the few weaknesses in my personal opinion is the somewhat bland graphic style. Don't get me wrong, I actually like the core aesthetic of the game a lot. But I had some trouble distinguishing buildings from another, especially when you are zoomed out or in a hurry to find something. But that may be just a me problem after all. The monsters are well designed, the bosses look stunning, and your troops are somewhat fun to look at. In their short-term roadmap, there is actually some nice things coming. Just recently, they added a new deity for more gameplay diversity. There is garrisons coming as a new building option, more blessings and burdens, and a campaign mode for all the story-interested players. But let's be real. Is Here Comes the Swarm worth playing? And who should play it? There is a lot of content already in the early access, and the game honestly feels like Dia Billions 2 with a fun and interesting gameplay twist. One might argue that the deity and skill tree systems make the game feel bigger and more fleshed out. There are many ways to change the gameplay in a way you like it best, and probably has a higher replay value than Dia Billions, to be entirely honest. But I advise you to view it as a standalone game. And that is what it does very well. It's a fun, intriguing, and highly addictive RTS, and I will be dumping many more hours into this RTS gem. So would I recommend it? Definitely. If you are a RTS and they are Billions fan, you can't go wrong on this RTS game for only 20 bucks. This is exactly the kind of game I want to talk about on Games Between Games. It's not trying to replace They Are Billions, but if you've been missing that experience, this might be one of the closest alternatives you never heard of. If you know any other hidden gems that deserve more attention, let me know in the comments. This is it for today. This was Games Between Games.